My name is Hal Lucius Nation, and I am the Grand Hierophant and Chief Officiant of the Temple of Awakening Divinity. The Temple of Awakening Divinity is a syncretic, entheogenic church that travels around to various locations throughout the United States to offer a Eucharistic celebration of entheogenic spirituality.
Sounds great. Give us an idea of what the flow of your travel is like.
Well, I do quite a bit of driving and a little bit of flying to remote locations throughout the United States. I travel pretty frequently, at least once a month, visiting major population centers around the United States. I also go out to numerous festival locations where I participate in community and host celebrations and circles.
And how long have you been doing this in its current or in a similar form?
The Temple of Awakening Divinity was founded in December of 2007 and really started working on the road in September of 2008 after really beginning our first series of circles at the Burning Man Festival in 2008. And we visited the Burning Man Festival on several occasions, a number of other festivals around the west coast of the United States, and currently I am continuing to travel throughout the United States on a monthly basis.
What are some of the things you find attractive about the mobile lifestyle?
One of the things that I find most attractive about the mobile lifestyle is that it really gives me the opportunity to visit and connect deeply with communities throughout the United States and hopefully what will become internationally, in order to bring the message of the temple, which is really the idea that we are God incarnated into flesh, living this experience into the world to all of humanity.
And tell us about some of your favorite places or events to which you have traveled bringing this message.
I would say some of my favorite places, obviously I spoke of it before, is the Burning Man Festival, which I've attended for the last 5 years in a row. The Beloved Festival certainly is another location that and festival event that I really, really love. I've spoken in numerous locations up and down the west coast of the United States, and like to, visit numerous cities, you might say, to bring that message forward. Generally, I am hosted in private homes and bring the message of the temple to people throughout the country.
Did you become mobile as a necessity for this particular offering, or did you plan the offering around your desire to be mobile? Tell us a little bit about how that evolved.
Sure. The activities of the temple were primarily offered in a single location, and then of necessity I started working in other locations around my geographic area where we started, and then I was literally called by a friend of mine after they attended a ceremony at the Burning Man Festival to bring it down to the San Francisco Bay Area, which I did. That was very, very successful. People responded to it really enthusiastically. Since then, that's brought me into other locations around the San Francisco Bay Area, including San Francisco proper, Marin, Sonoma County. Then I was called into Los Angeles and Orange County, Greater Southern California area, and Ojai. Then eventually I was drawn into the Portland community and Seattle, Boulder and Denver, and then it's just expanded from there. And I continue to expand out into new geographic areas.
And what was your motivation when you first began this offering?
Well, I had first received the sacrament of the Temple of Awakening Divinity in 2005 while I was attending and speaking on the mystical unitive experience at an event in Las Vegas, Nevada. That experience completely shifted and transformed my life. And it was 2.5 years later that I had the experience of our Sacred Eucharist again, and at that time the universe really opened up to me and called me to carry this message and this particular medicine forward to offer it to others. Ultimately, what that was about is the entheogenic experience itself, which is really the full experience of the divine embodied in ourselves, and the recognition from a Gnostic perspective of that full union with the divine consciousness, as the Eucharist that I work with induces what's called a nirvikalpa samadhi state, or a union with God that is beyond all languaging. And so it was really this idea that we are all God incarnated in flesh, that was the impetus of carrying that message and the sacrament forward.
And has your motivation changed much as time has gone by, or are you pretty much still motivated by that same?
I believe the initial motivation is very much still there. My interest is in giving people this particular experience. As the temple has continued to grow, the amount of administrative function involved in that has substantially grown. So fortunately, in my past lives, I've been a very sufficient administrator and have set up systems to be able to do that. Although that's becomes more of an aspect of the temple activities that I'm not as keen on, although it becomes necessary in order to continue to bring this out to greater and greater numbers of people.
Well, you kind of just answered this next question, but I'm going to ask it anyway because there may be other skills and abilities that have enabled you to become more sustainable as you've gone along this path. What skills and abilities do you think have really enabled you to continue doing this with the success that you have?
Good question. The skills and abilities that I've either had or developed over time are really the ability to hold space for people and allow for huge openings in consciousness to arise, huge emotional releases to occur, and to really be able to hold a solid, sacred container and create that solid, sacred container for that to be able to unfold and happen. In terms of travel or other aspects, I will generally roll into a particular community anywhere from 4 days on the short end to 8 or 9 days on the long end, and over the course of that time do anywhere from 7 to 12 ceremonies. So having a background in the entertainment industry where I've had to put in long hours of working really has lended to my ability to be able to do 2 6 to 8 hour circles over the course of a day relatively easily. Also, I really enjoy traveling. I really enjoy being on the road, and so I spend a lot of time on the road driving. I utilize a very fuel-efficient vehicle while I do that has a nice hands-free speaker system, so I can talk on the phone as need be as I am traveling, and that certainly helps a lot having that technology, because I'm trying to be as green as possible and have as little carbon footprint as possible in my travels.
What are some of the most exciting aspects of what you do?
Oh my God. The most exciting aspects of what I do, the most humbling aspects of what I do is the ability to hold that space that I talked about before, to be present for the individual's full opening into the full knowledge and understanding of their own divinity, to be able to hold that as a sacred honor that I have been graced with, and a massive responsibility as well. But it brings the greatest amount of joy and fulfillment into my life that I could have never, ever have imagined.
And could you touch on a few of the most tedious tasks?
Oh, God. Yeah, so as I mentioned before, the most tedious tasks are actually getting people into the temple itself. I'm fortunate in that I'm a people person and I really love people, but one of the things that I don't like quite as much as being on the computer as much as I am. In order to be invited into the temple, you have to actually know somebody in the temple. But there still is a good deal of legwork that has to happen in terms of getting people informed and then getting people here. So that amount of admin work is not my most favorite. But what's fortunate and what I do really enjoy is connecting with people and connecting with them on the deepest possible levels.
And do you feel the form that you're currently offering is the highest expression of this, or do you envision it evolving in some way?
That's a great question. In terms of evolution of this practice, the Temple of Awakening Divinity is really founded on a very, very simple Taoist ideology, which is from small things, great. And so when I started the temple, it was about creating a safe, solid, and sacred container, utilizing aspects of ceremonial magic, which I have my training in, to create that safe vessel for the opening to really occur. The way that the temple is commonly brought forward is a simple Eucharistic ceremonial magical offering. And there are definitely numerous, in fact, some might say unlimited applications for this particular sacrament. So I would say there is definitely a lot of area for expansion. I am bringing this forward in a purely spiritual setting. There are certainly aspects that can be brought forward for usage of this sacrament in terms of therapeutic modalities, various healing modalities for invoking and instilling and bringing forward genius, problem solving, team building structures. I believe that there are corporate applications for this. It's really quite unlimited, and we're really just at the very, very vanguard of bringing this forward in the numerous ways that it can be worked with.
Now, some of our viewers may have a pretty good idea of what you're talking about. Others may not have a clue. Do you feel like being a little more specific about the offering that you're bringing to people, or
Sure.
or provide a clue or two? Or?
Sure. So the Temple of Awakening Divinity works with an entheogenic Eucharistic sacrament. We call it the samadhi because that's what it does. Samadhi, for those of you who don't know, is a Sanskrit word. Sam means with, and adi means God. It's basically a neurotransmitter that exists in your and my bodies already. It exists in the bodies of all mammals, all humans, in numerous plants, and can also be made synthetically in the laboratory. Its technical name is 5-MEO DMT, or 5-methoxy-dimethyltryptamine. If you want to learn more about this, two books that I could highly recommend would be James Orrock's Tryptamine Palace and Martin Ball's The Entheogenic Evolution, among many other titles.
Thank you for being clear on that.
You are quite welcome.
What advice would you give to someone wanting to follow a similar path?
The advice that I would offer someone in desiring to follow a similar path is move slowly. To ensure that you are working in a safe, solid, sacred setting. I would not recommend to anybody to utilize this sacrament on their own, especially not the first time out. This is a very, very powerful psychoactive compound, and it can definitely be disturbing if it is not administered in exactly the right conditions. So I would say find somebody who really knows what they're doing with this particular sacrament, and be really, really well informed about what you're stepping into.
Any last thoughts that you would like to share with our community, or any parting wisdom you'd like to offer up?
Well, I just want to thank the folks at SavvyNomad.com and all those savvy nomads out there for giving me an opportunity to share some of this wisdom, some of this knowledge about the temple. And what I would say is that as you travel into the world to really shine the light of your lamp, the light of your heart, the light of your love brightly on everyone that you encounter. For it's by shining your light brightly on everyone that you encounter that you give them permission to shine their light just as brightly. And it's by shining our light brightly on each other in this way that the entire world will transform in a beautiful, brilliant blaze of glory.
Thank you for that, and thank you for taking the time to share with us today.
Thank you. Blessings.